So picture this, a year-round destination where you can go hiking, surfing, cycling, skiing, and just about every other outdoor activity you can possibly imagine, all on one island. This paradise is just a ferry ride away from one of the biggest cities on the west coast of North America. Today, our local expert, Kat Driver, tells us all about how to plan the perfect trip to Vancouver Island, British Columbia. All right, Kat, so we've already talked about Vancouver in another episode, which listeners, I encourage you to check that out after this episode. But what is the difference between Vancouver and Vancouver Island?
Yeah, Vancouver and Vancouver Island actually can kind of sometimes confuse tourists because the biggest city on Vancouver Island is Victoria. So quite often people call it Victoria Island, but it's actually Vancouver Island. And the main difference is it's exactly that. It's an island. So it's about 50 kilometers away from the mainland of British Columbia. So it's about 50 kilometers from Vancouver. Same beautiful scenery, but dotted with lots of little small towns and a couple of big cities. It really is one of my top places if you want to experience the nature of British Columbia. It's absolutely one of the best places to go. And the other thing I find quite different about it too is I like to go there because the people are really nice. So they have a real island mentality there as well, like a lot of small town charms.
Okay, so contrary to what some people might think, Vancouver is not the capital of British Columbia, it's Victoria, which is on the southern tip of Vancouver Island.
Exactly. Vancouver is the biggest city, so naturally everybody thinks that it's the capital of the province, but it's actually Victoria.
Definitely thought that at one point.
Yeah, and Victoria is, I think, one of the top places to go on Vancouver Island. And that's where most of the tourists will head to straight away on their Vancouver Island adventure.
Oh yeah, we'll get into everything on how to get there and what to do, all that. So thanks for clarifying, but we'll get a visual on the screen too so listeners can kind of see the map of the area. It's a lot bigger. The island's a lot bigger than I thought. It's actually bigger than some of our East Coast states in the United States. So it's a lot of land there.
There is a ton of land. It's 420 kilometers from north to south. So it's a really big island. It's not just like a little small island that you go and pull up on a beach. It's a really big place. So there's so much to see and experience.
So how do you get to Vancouver Island from the city of Vancouver, and what are the best ways to get around it?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that you can get there. And it also kind of depends where you're going as well. So most people will go to Victoria, and the easiest way to get there is by ferry. So we have a ferry that goes from Tsawwassen, which is just south of Vancouver, and goes to Schwartz Bay Ferry Terminal, which is like half an hour away from downtown Victoria. So that's a great way to go. You can take a car or you can walk on. I don't have a car, so I usually just walk on the ferry. And then we've also got the Horseshoe Bay Ferry Terminal, which is in West Vancouver. So that's near the mountains, near the North Shore Mountains. And that will take you to Nanaimo. So Nanaimo and Victoria, about a couple of hours drive apart. So if you're going to explore Tofino or the north of Vancouver Island, you will go to Nanaimo from Horseshoe Bay by ferry. Another really great way, and one that I actually really want to do sometime, is take the float plane. You can take a float plane from downtown Vancouver or from Vancouver Airport. And that's the Harbor Air Service. And that's really fun. That lands you right in Victoria in the inner harbor. So that's a really cool way to get there. And I think it only takes about a half an hour. So it's a really nice, quick way to get to the island. And then you can also just take a regular plane. Victoria has an international airport, so you can take an Air Canada or WestJet or Alaska Air. Like all those carriers will have flights to Victoria. So you can do that as well.
Okay, so lots of different options. Good to hear.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of getting around the island, like I mentioned, I don't have a car. And I find that like I go to Victoria quite often. And when I get off the ferry at Schwartz Bay, I'll take the bus. But it's quite arduous. It's really slow. It takes about an hour to get into downtown. It's quite nice to have a vehicle. And then especially to get around the island, if you're planning to explore more than just Victoria or more than just Nanaimo, it's really beneficial to have a car with you because there are so many wonderful little small towns along the way. And the bus service is not really great outside of the cities. Even in Vancouver, it's kind of hard to get anywhere outside of the city by public transportation. So it's doable, but it's quite difficult to see the small places and the little hidden corners without a vehicle. So always a great idea to rent a car.
So if someone isn't renting a car and they intend to just stay in Victoria or Nanaimo, are those areas pretty walkable?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're both really small cities and you can get everywhere by foot. And they do have public transportation within those cities too. So that's also really, really easy to get around. But especially when I go to Victoria, I love walking there. It's such a pretty place that is like, I almost just, I don't want to be on a bus.
So you mentioned earlier that you can take the ferry from two different ports near Vancouver. About how long does
Yeah.
that ferry take?
They're about an hour and a half.
Okay, so not too bad.
Yeah. I prefer the ferry ride to Victoria because you pass through the Gulf Islands. So it's really, really picturesque. It's a really beautiful journey. The ferry to Nanaimo is kind of just straight across the water. So you get a lot of beautiful water views. Maybe you can catch a whale or some sea life, but that'll take around an hour, hour and a half as well. So they're both pretty similar in distances. And the ferry ride is fun too. You go on there, you can sit outside on the sun deck and it's always popular to have a meal on the ferry as well. So it's a really nice journey, either whichever way you go.
Sounds lovely.
Mhm.
Well, you mentioned whales, and that kind of just leads me into my next topic, which is what are the best things to do on Vancouver Island?
Yeah, so when we talk about whales, definitely a whale watching tour. You can pick those up from all the major cities on the island. And some of the small towns too also offer whale watching adventures if they're coastal towns. And that's a really, really amazing experience because the scenery is so beautiful. And then to experience that, the wildlife and its natural habitat is quite extraordinary. So it's a super popular activity to do and definitely one I would recommend.
When exactly is the best time to go whale watching near Vancouver Island? I know there's usually a particular season.
Yeah, April to October is the best time to go whale watching. It's also a really fantastic time to just visit in general because the weather is really fantastic on the island during those months.
Have you done one of those tours before?
I have done one like way up north in Port McNeill. It's a tiny little village on northern Vancouver Island. My cousin used to live there and I did go whale watching with him
How
up
was
there.
it?
That's amazing. It's so amazing.
Sounds-
And you learn so much too because the guides are so knowledgeable that take you. So it's a really, really beautiful adventure.
How cool.
Super Canadian too. So
I love it. I love it.
a nice thing to put on your list for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So Victoria, I would say would be the top place to visit on Vancouver Island. I absolutely love it. Every time I go over there, I'm like, should I move here? It's wonderful. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's our capital city, our provincial capital. And it's really quaint and really beautiful. It's got this real English vibe to it. It's named after Queen Victoria. So of course it's a lot of, charming little streets and little shops, and afternoon tea at the Empress is definitely a must-do activity there. It's so much fun. It's such a really nice way to spend some time in Victoria at the Empress Hotel. Butchart Gardens is another top attraction in Victoria. That's a beautiful garden it was made out of a limestone quarry. So it's got this beautiful sunken garden, and they change it up seasonally. They have the most amazing Christmas display. Like their Christmas lights are kind of like Van Dusen, like what you and I went to, Betty, in Vancouver.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, my God. So stunning.
But a little bit bigger. It's amazing. So I would say Victoria would definitely be the top spot to visit on Vancouver Island. Tofino is also another really popular place to go on Vancouver Island. It's most famous for its surf culture because it's right on the Pacific Ocean. So there's tons of surfing there. And during the fall season, it's really famous for its storms. So a lot of people go, get a beautiful hotel room with a view and just watch the waves hit the beach. So that's really a popular place to go on Vancouver Island too, and kind of a nice year-round destination as well.
I cannot even imagine how cold that water is.
I can't imagine that either. No,
They must be like the thickest wetsuits.
I know. I think that's an activity. I don't know. I actually kind of would like to try it sometime.
Yeah. You should.
Definitely in August, if not in November.
Yeah.
And then some smaller places that I really love on Vancouver Island. One is a little town called Coombs, and they are famous they have this beautiful market, and on top of that market, they have goats on the roof. So they have this like slanted roof, and the goats, it's like a
Real goats?
grass-covered roof, and like real goats are up grazing at the top of the roof. It's super fun. And the market is really amazing. It's a perfect place for kids, or if you just want to go spend some money. It's quite tempting, but that's a really fun place to go. And then Chemainus is another place that I really love. It's this little storybook village. It's so cute. And they are famous for their murals. They have over 60 murals kind of scattered around town on the buildings and on the walls, just kind of showcasing historical scenes about their former industry and some of the history of the town. But they're really beautiful. And I always love going there because the people are so nice in Chemainus. And it's just such a lovely place to just walk around and spend a couple of hours. So that's another one I would definitely recommend on Vancouver Island. And then I can also just go see some of the wonderful nature. Cathedral Grove is really popular for its beautiful big trees, and Souk Potholes Park as well as a popular place near Victoria that you can go and just experience some of the natural surroundings of the area.
Can you elaborate on the name of Souk Potholes Park is really throwing me off. What is that? What are the potholes?
Yeah, so the Souk Potholes are, they are a funny name, but they are rock formations that collect the water in them. And you can actually
I can
swimming in them and everything. So
really? They're that big?
Yeah.
How cool.
It's not like Olympic size pool or anything like that, but they're a really beautiful natural wonder of the island.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And with all the natural beauty of Vancouver Island, there's such great places to hike and cycle. Mount Washington is great for skiing as well. So in the winter, it's a really great winter destination if you're into skiing. And then visit the Gulf Islands too, because the Gulf Islands are what I mentioned, where the ferry passes through on the way to Victoria. And they're just really quaint and charming. And just like that's island life on those little islands. Salt Spring Island is my favorite out of those. That's a really beautiful place to go they have a gorgeous market, a really sweet kind of town center with lots of nice local shopping. Again, super nice people. I've written an article on Travel Lemming about my experience on Salt Spring Island in the summer. So check that out too. If you have a little bit more time to explore Vancouver Island and the surrounding Gulf Islands, it's definitely worth checking a couple of those Gulf Islands out. And then Taylor has also written a really great article about things to do on Vancouver Island. So she lists her favorites and a whole bunch of other wonderful things to do on a trip to Vancouver Island. So lots of ideas.
Yeah, and listeners, if you want to go ahead and check those articles out, we'll have all of them listed in the show notes below so that you can access them very easily. So I know it sounds kind of silly, but whenever I think of an island, I think of beaches. And I know that Vancouver Island area is very forested. So what are the beaches like there? Or are there beaches that people like to go to?
Yeah, people go to the beach on Vancouver Island and go swimming. In Victoria, there's a lot of, because Victoria is, the city on the coast, there's tons of waterfront places to walk and parks, and there are beaches in the city as well. Long Beach in Tofino is also super popular. That's again where the main hub of the surf culture is. And then all along that coast as well, there's tons of beaches in Ucluelet as well. So yeah, you can find beaches everywhere on Vancouver Island. It's right on the Pacific, and one side is on the Pacific Ocean and then the other side on the Salish Sea. So you're surrounded by water.
Where do you suggest someone who has never been to Vancouver Island stay?
Again, that kind of depends what you want to do. So if you're planning to explore the north of the island, Nanaimo is really great to stay. It's a big city. It's got all the amenities there, lots of hotel options. If you want to explore the south of the island, Victoria and the capital, stay in Victoria for sure. Tofino is great for the coastal experience. So I would say if getting into the coastal nature is what you're looking for, Tofino is a great place to spend a few days. And then if you're looking for something like a little bit less touristy or with the kids, Parksville is really popular with children. The Comox Valley and the Cowichan Valleys are really popular as well because you're going to get that real local experience. You're not going to get the hordes of tourists, especially Victoria. There's especially in the summer, there's tons of tourists all over the city. So if you're looking for a real local quiet, a real holiday, stay in one of those smaller places. They're so beautiful. So it's really a worthwhile way to experience the island, even if it's not the excitement of the bigger cities. It's really nice for a relaxing holiday.
So of all those places you just mentioned, is there one that you would classify as a more budget destination?
Nowhere in British Columbia they classify really as a budget destination.
That's fair.
Everything here is a little bit more expensive. But for example, if you're going to Tofino can be really expensive. So what I would suggest is staying in Ucluelet, which is just next door, and quite often a lot more affordable than Tofino. And for a place like Nanaimo, you could stay outside, like in Parksville or Qualicum Beach, or a little bit less expensive than the city. And again, not too far to go. And for Victoria, I would suggest just going in the off season if you want a more budget trip to Victoria, because Victoria, especially during the high season, during the summer season, the prices just skyrocket. So for Victoria, it's not a super budget friendly destination, but going in the off season is going to save you a lot of money. So for example, I went last April and was able to get a hotel for like $100 a night. But had I gone in, had I gone in 100 Canadian dollars. So it's a really good deal for Americans and Brits and everybody else in the world. But if I would have gone in July, that hotel would have been 4 times the price. So Victoria, I would definitely suggest if you're on a little bit of a budget, visit in the off season and it won't be too expensive.
So that's a good segue into my next topic, which is when is the best time of year to visit Vancouver Island?
Summer for sure is the best time to visit because it's sunny and warm and there's so many nice little festivals and everybody kind of comes out of our winter hibernation. So that is a really beautiful time to visit, but it's also busy and a little bit more expensive, but weather-wise and kind of activity-wise, it's really the best time of year. You're not gonna get anything better than that. It's absolutely amazing. I would say spring and fall are actually also really beautiful. Speaking to Victoria, what's really nice about Victoria is the weather's a little bit better than Vancouver. It doesn't see quite as much rain, so I really like Victoria in the spring because you're still kind of guaranteed those nice sunny days, and the flowers are just spectacular in Victoria. You may be able to get away without an umbrella. So spring and fall are really nice times there because you still get the great weather, but it's not quite as crowded. There may not be as many festivals and activities going on, but it's still great. And then winter is nice too. Again, like I mentioned before, if you like skiing, like up at Mount Washington, that's a great time to go. Great time to go to Tofino for the storms. So that's nice in the winter. And I also actually really love Christmas on Vancouver Island as well. It's like all the little towns get all decked out in lights, and it's a really beautiful time of year as well. And then you're also going to get the rock bottom prices in the winter. So the hotels are going to be a lot less expensive.
So is it more rainy there, or does it snow more, or is it a little bit more mild? Was it?
It also depends because the island is so big too. So you're going to get up north, they're going to see a little bit more snow because they're higher up north, but it's going to be rainy. We're still in a rainforest in Vancouver
You just got to accept it.
And you do have to accept it and just remember that's why it's so beautiful and green. But really similar weather to Vancouver, Seattle, Portland. You are going to get those really rainy days as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to know. Bring a raincoat and an umbrella.
Bring a raincoat, bring an umbrella.
Unlike I did when I went to visit you back in December. Was very ill prepared for the rain.
Oh.
Would you consider Vancouver Island safe?
I do find it a very safe place. Like I mentioned before, the people are so nice. It's so charming and lovely. But just like in Vancouver and a lot of the cities along the West Coast especially, there is quite a problem with homelessness and drug addiction, especially in Victoria, like in the bigger cities in Victoria and Nanaimo. It's actually quite evident. So again, it would just be about, I've never had a problem. I've always gone there by myself and that's it. You'll be fine. But it's just about sort of minding your belongings and just don't engage with anybody who might approach you for money or anything like that. But violent crime it's going to be rare there. But just be aware of that. With that said, just like the advice I'd give in Vancouver, don't leave anything in a vehicle because that will just be a target and you don't want anything, especially if you're renting a car.
All right. Well, moving right along to our next topic, which is food. Can you give us a few of the must-try dishes on Vancouver Island?
Yeah. So one of my favorite ones, for anybody who likes a sweet tooth, you must try a Nanaimo bar. Nanaimo bars are named after the city of Nanaimo. They're a triple layer dessert. It's a graham coconut bottom, like a sweet custard in the middle, and then a chocolate on top. So it's a layered bar, and they're chilled, so you eat those cold. And again, for those with a sweet tooth, if you're visiting Victoria, definitely go and visit the historic Rogers Chocolate Shop. Rogers Chocolate is is a beautiful brand of chocolates that started in Victoria. And they've got the most amazing historic shop on Government Street in Victoria. So that's always really fun to go and visit. And they're popular for like their creams. So they do like these chocolates with a flavored creamy filling. They're so delicious. You'll walk those off. It's fine. Just go for it. And then, of course, being a coastal place, seafood is really popular. So anything like halibut and oysters and salmon, all of those are going to be really popular. They're going to be in abundance. So you'll definitely want to try the seafood while you're on Vancouver Island. And Vancouver Island also really prides itself on like their fresh local ingredients. So you can get a lot of really nice fresh produce and different ingredients in the food there. Join a food tour and join a wine tour. Like those are super popular activities to do on Vancouver Island. You can do it in the cities and wine tours in the Cowichan Valley and food tours in the Comox Valley. So you can find them around the island. And that's a really great way to experience the different foods of the island.
Sounds lovely. I always hear people say that you should do a food tour wherever you travel. I've never taken one. And the more I hear it, and I'm like, why have I not done that? It's such a good way to try out the local dishes and the wine and the whatever alcohol, beer, Sounds lovely.
Yeah, I love them.
Thank you for all of those suggestions there. So is there any special Vancouver Island etiquette that people should know before they go?
I think kind of just like any etiquette that you'd use in Vancouver as well. The locals, as I've mentioned, are super laid back and really friendly. So basic manners goes a very long way. And on Vancouver Island, like people like to engage and talk to visitors. So don't be afraid to talk to people there. Like that, they'll be more than happy to engage you in a much longer conversation than you probably expected. So they're really lovely on the island. And also because, if you do plan to, take part in any outdoor activities, just be really mindful about obeying any signage that you see and just taking care when you're outdoors and being prepared as well. Don't go hiking in flip-flops and things like that on Vancouver Island because that won't end well. And don't pick the flowers at Bouchard Gardens. A lot of people are tempted to pick the flowers at the gardens there, and that's a big no-no. And then just like many places in North America, your tipping is expected. 15 to 20% is usually the standard there. And Vancouver Island, it attracts a lot of people walking and people riding. So just be mindful of, it's not just vehicles you're looking out for.
Yeah, it sounds like the perfect place to be on a bike or on foot. So always a good thing
really
to know.
Is.
Well, do you have any other specific tips that travelers should know before visiting Vancouver Island?
Yeah, I think one of the main ones is the moment you know your plans, book the ferry because the ferry fills up really, really fast, especially on long weekends, sunny weekends. So you're definitely going to want to have a reservation for those because that'll get you on right away and you won't have to wait for a couple of hours for the next sailing. So book those in advance. Accommodation as well. Accommodation, especially in the high season, like June to October. That's going to be the height of the tourist season. So make sure you book your accommodation in advance as well. As I mentioned earlier, rent a car if you can to really make the most of your experience on the island. If you only get to Victoria or Nanaimo, that's nice too if you don't have a car. If you do want to plan a real island adventure there, just have a car with you. And as we talked about before, bring your layers, bring an umbrella because you're quite almost guaranteed to experience a little bit of rain. And also be careful with I guess especially for Canadians, be careful with your phone because Victoria and some of the southern tip of Vancouver Island kind of falls in line with the United States. So sometimes the mobile signals can cross. So you don't want to be
interesting. Good tip.
Sticker shocked with a big phone bill after your holiday because that's known to happen.
I wouldn't even think of that.
For places that are close to the border like that or that are kind of in line with the States. The wires can cross and then you end up with a massive bill. So just, if you can turn your roaming off just to avoid that happening.
Definitely a good tip. To wrap up, what's the ultimate reason, in your opinion, that someone should visit Vancouver Island?
I think Vancouver Island's scenery is just going to blow your mind. I think it's one of the most beautiful spots in Canada. It's absolutely gorgeous with the mountains and the forest and the sea, like everything kind of converging in one place. And I just love to, if you're looking for just somewhere that's a little bit smaller and relaxing, it's such a beautiful place. You'll definitely get such a warm, lovely welcome from the people of Vancouver Island. So if you're coming to Vancouver, absolutely don't miss a chance to go over there. Victoria's and Nanaimo are doable as day trips, but I think Vancouver Island is worth so much more than that. So if you only have a day, it's great for a taste, but it's a really nice place to budget quite a bit of time in your itinerary.
Well, listeners, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show today. Check out travellemming.com to read all of Kat's detailed guides on Vancouver Island, and check out our Vancouver podcast while you're at it. We filmed that just a couple of months ago. All of those links are in the show notes below. And if you want to meet Kat in person, stop by the Vancouver meetup. Travel Lemming also hosts meetups in multiple cities around the US. So go ahead, check out our homepage, see if we're hanging out in a city near you, and we will see you over a pint. See you next time on the Travel Lemming podcast.